Hey everyone, welcome back. Just by starting today, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone for watching these videos and listening to this podcast. I really appreciate all the support, and I hope you're getting a lot out of it. And hopefully, I can help you a little bit more throughout the rest of this preseason. We're getting really close to the season, guys. So I hope you enjoy this one. Today, we're going to be going through all of the trial games from the weekend. So there's going to be a bunch of stuff that's going to be really helpful for us, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff that's going to be clouding our minds a little bit, especially around the guns, considering they played a lot less minutes and didn't score as well as what you would have hoped. But I hope that this brings you a little bit more clarity for your teams. And just a last thing, guys, just obviously we will be putting out my opinion on a lot of these guys. Please don't take it as gospel. It's just my opinion. Please just take the information as it is and let it help make your own decisions. So I'm going to start with the first game of the week, which was the Raiders and the Roosters. And we'll go through a few of the players there. The interesting one was Tedesco was kicking when Takiaho went off the field. So Takiaho is definitely not going to play the 80 minutes. He might do in a few games, but that's going to be the anomaly rather than the normalcy. And you can see he was able to get 1 out of 2 there and kicked a good one from close to the sideline and with one duff there. But yeah, so he's going to be a top line gun wing fullback. We know that. We'll scroll down to the rest of the guys there. Lockie Lamb had 40 points there, so did a decent amount of kicking in play. It's really hard to see all the stats from this screen with it being so long, but just over a couple hundred kick meters in conjunction with Hutchison, who kicked less than him. So you can expect somewhere in the couple hundred meters during his full-time games with Keary by his side, and a score of 40. When he just did a little bit, nothing too crazy, was a good result for Lamb, and that's a nice score that will make him some decent money, and you'd be hoping for that to be at more of a minimum. He obviously didn't play the whole game either with Walker coming on, so that's really good signs for him, and he looked like he could hold his own in this team, and that's all you really need to see from him at this stage. Moving along, Hutchison's not someone we want to be thinking about too much anyway. Jake Friend, he won't be getting the amount of minutes that we're looking for out of him. So Takiao had a really good start. Had scored 25 points in his first 27 minutes with a couple of goal kicks, which is what everyone was hoping for. And then came on for his second stint and ended up with a score of 42. So this is my worry with him. With him obviously being priced at 50 already, even with those goal kicking stats, to make 118 meters and around 30 tackles with a couple of demerits, then that's not going to be amazing for him. 42 in a trial is nothing to sneeze at, but he's someone that I'd be cautious of. I'd be cautious of expecting him to average closer to 60, which a lot of people are, and he's never been someone that's done that, and that's my big caution for him. Crichton showed exactly what he can do, and as a lot of us think, he's going to be a top mid and edge this season. So he's someone that I'd suggest bring into your team. He's looking even bigger and stronger with his sexy new haircut and the goatee. So he's someone that I'll be having in my side. So please don't take that as gospel, but he's someone that I think is going to be really good for your team going forward. Tupanua scored a try, got 38. A lot of people are still really talking him up, but when you look at his price to start with at 485, he's already priced at 36. So I can see him averaging closer to 40. We've spoken about him a bit at length, and he's got a 37 with a try in 80 minutes. He's got a nice 75. So he's got a couple of random big games, a 75 with a double. He's someone that scores a few tries, but he also can get a 33 in 74 minutes. So I don't feel like he's too undervalued at this stage going forward. Then we look down the line. Sam Walker played really well. But it doesn't look like he'll get a start. Got those 40 points, and no one really else to talk about in this Roosters side. We'll move into the Raiders side of things, and some interesting ones there. We've had guys like Nickel Clockstad being spoken about a bit. Didn't play too much of that game and scored 13 points, which again, not something you want to be stressing about too much at this stage. Bailey Simonson, 1 point. Beautiful. That's exactly what we want. So only 4 runs. Nothing too exciting for Simonson there, which is exactly what I thought anyway. So he's someone that I'd look to try and avoid. Tomoko played as well, 10 points, nothing crazy as well, but he should have that spot for the first few games. There's also the chance that he's putting some pressure on Curtis Scott, but again, we'll have to wait and see what happens with team lists and the first couple of weeks for what's going to happen there. Rapana had a good little game, but that's just standard for him around those points. Jack White didn't do too much and scored a nice one-on-one, a nice individual try. Georgie Williams, 22. Sam Williams, yeah, nothing special there. Georgie, I've seen a few people have him in their team, but he's not someone that's too popular. I don't see him as having too much upside. Josh Hodgson was an interesting one. Did get 2 try assists and still only had 27. So he's always been that someone that's a really good footy player, but doesn't translate too well to fantasy. And obviously we can't take too much out of this 27, but I expect more scores around the 40 than I would the 50 with him, giving him fairly limited upside. Emre Gula, Hudson Young scored a try on the edge and got 49, so he did what coaches would like him to do, and played really well to the eye. Tommy Starling is a really good player and dominated the other game in the New South Wales Cup one, and then played a little bit in this one too for 19 points. Corey Horsburgh goes about his business, and it was really cool to see Ryan James get back into the fold of things. But in terms of the Raiders, there wasn't a lot to talk about. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in round 1, even round 2 and 3 with someone like CHN looking to come back into the side. But at this stage, there's not a lot of really good options for me on the Raiders side. So we'll move along to the Storm and the Knights game, which was dominated by the Storm, which makes sense. They're definitely, they won the comp last year. They're definitely the best team, we can say, at this stage. And you look at someone like Pappenhausen, he got to kick the goals, which is really good. And he actually kicked them really well. Kicked a couple from the sideline. Didn't have to do too much in attack. He looked really sharp. Passing looked really good. He had pretty much almost a line break, and he didn't even get credited with one tackle bust in that whole thing. So, but a score of 24, you're not going to be worried about that. He played well and did what he needed to do in the time he was on the field. Remus Smith looked okay to the eye in centres, so you'd expect a small bump in his scores in the centres, and for those looking to bring him in, you want him to be about 10 points undervalued, and I'm not sure if I see that at this stage. I think maybe 5 to 7 points undervalued, but it's just going to depend what his base stats are going to be like, which I think aren't going to be too high in a side which has a lot of guys that are good at coming out of trouble. It depends who gets this wing spot, but you've got Adokar, Olam, these kind of guys that are going to be really good at and Pappenhausen making the meters out of their own end, and will Smith see the ball with a really strong left side in Olam, Adokar, Munster. So that's something to think about with him. Addo, we don't want to talk about too much in terms of his fantasy scores. Munster just did what he needed to do, nothing spectacular. You wouldn't expect him to go crazy in a trial. Jerome Hughes had his hands on the ball a lot more than Munster did, and managed to score a try himself and get a score of 47. So you can see with Cameron Smith out, Hughes sort of picked off where he ended last year in those last bunch of games where he had more control over the ball, had his hands on the ball more. With it goes straight to him or it goes straight to Munster or it stays in Smith's hands, and you can see that he really took control, as I said. Harry Grant took a couple of kicks out of the hooking role, but our issue with him is we just found out that he's going to be out for probably the first month of the season with an MCL sprain. NRL physio said it would be a possible rupture to the MCL, which is a shorter span of an injury return, but that's going to be interesting to see who plays 9. Obviously, Brandon Smith should, and a lot of people will probably be hooked in on bringing him in. But this is going to be interesting to see what happens with the minutes on the bench then for someone like a Kamakamika, Christian Welsh, Bromwich, these kind of guys. Are they going to get bigger minutes with Brandon Smith playing in the 9 role for the first few games of the season? Bromwich spoke about. Nelson got a try like he normally would. Christian Welsh looked busy, got 30 points. Didn't have to do too much. Got a lot of runs early on in the game especially and tackled hard, so just a normal hit around for him. Nico Hines looked good off the bench. Other than that, not too much to speak about with the Storm team. Let's move along to the Knights. Tex Hoy looked okay. Wasn't too excited with him just in his first game back. Obviously they're playing the Storm, and And something that I think will be interesting with Tex is deciding who they're going to be playing against in those first bunch of rounds. They have a fairly decent schedule, so if they're playing some teams that aren't as good, you can see what happened in some of the other games in the Dragons Rabbitohs game, the Tigers Eagles game. If they get the Dragons or the Seagulls and that kind of thing, then I'd expect him to do a lot better than he would against a good team like the Storm. So so he looked okay. So I'd like to see. It's very hard with no more trials. It's going to be hard to see how he's going to play come round one, but let's hope that there's someone like a Dane Laurie gets a spot over Tex there in our sides. Tuala best looks strong. They went left a lot, especially early on in the game, and he got a bunch of nice runs and a lot of post contact meters and almost making breaks down that left side. So I feel like that's going to be a strong point for the Knights going forward is down on that left side, and he with him being a focal point. Pearce did what he normally did. Clemmer looked okay, nothing crazy. Brayley did exactly what we thought he would. He made tackles, had a couple of runs, had a dummy half, but nothing crazy there. Fairly similar to his brother, just ran, a few runs at a dummy half and tackled well. So, yeah, that's all we'd say about him. The only interesting thing with him is he going to be the only hooker in the team come round one, or is Chris Randall going to be there, who also plays pretty well and came off the bench there. Mitch Barnett was a late withdrawal. Frizzell looked really good in his time in the field, ran really hard, but not someone I'd want to be bringing into my side. Colin Watson was a really interesting one to watch. He looked like he returned well from his Achilles injury, and that's all I was really hoping for in this. He got in and tackled hard and made a few little scurries out of a dummy half and some quick runs at first receiver there, and looked like he ran freely, which was great. And as we've seen in those previous scores, and that's what we're going to go off, is that more than these trial games, is that when he's out there playing, he does get a few tackle breaks. He's sharp with his footwork and tackles well. So this 12 is nothing to stress about just based on the eye test. He looked okay. And then moving along, Brodie Jones played well. Dominic Young looked really strong. He's a big boy out in the centres as well. Nice and young. One of the guys in the Discord chat was talking him up. And yeah, you can see that he's that Bradman Best mould, really big young fella who should get some time across the season. So I think he's one for the Black Book. That's about all with this game, guys. We'll move along to Titans and the Warriors. AJ Brimson. It was a 12-12 game. It was fairly decent. We got out of it what I think we needed to. Brimson looked sharp. He had a couple of good runs. Kelly looked sharp. He was looking to get in and make those darts out of dummy half and do the hard yards out of trouble, which got him 140 meters in that game. Didn't have to do too much in attack. Had a nice line break assist, but other than that, nothing special. Pat Herbert looked all right. He didn't kick goals, which is annoying for those that are looking to pick him up, but he did get really close to scoring on 3 occasions, which would have bumped his scoring up, and he looked all right. He's not someone that I'm looking to bring in my side, but I think he looked decent to the eye. For those that didn't see the game, Fogarty looked okay. He ran them around a little bit. Taylor did kick for a decent amount, a bit over 100 meters. So in their shorter time on the field, with Fogarty up at just over 200. So looks like they'll be able to share it around a little bit more with Taylor looking to play a little bit better. They've got Brimson out there. They can get early ball to Brian Kelly. Thompson looked good, nice and sharp. So will Fogarty have to do everything? Not sure, but he did get the goal kicking, which is really cool for those that are interested in picking him up. Jared Wallace had a good game. He looked a lot better. Mitch Rain looked solid. Got his 32 points with 34. Where I can't even find where the tackles are on here. So difficult. Anyway, just mainly tackled his way to freedom in this game. Mo Fodawaker looks strong. Dave Fafita, what I will say with him, he got 44 points in his limited time, and I think he looked really strong. If he's going to be playing close to 80 minutes, you can expect 3 to 4 to 5 tackle breaks at least a game to go along with some solid defense, and they're going to give him the ball a lot. You see he got a lot of early ball, and he barreled over Sean O'Sullivan a bunch of times, so the poor kid got the brunt of Fafita, but I think he's a really cool option for a lot of people's sides at a bit of a discount at just over 700k. But priced in the early 50s, I think he's someone that can average 55 to 60 and be a keeper in your team. Just looks so strong, and with with the upside of tackle breaks, and if he's going to play the 80 minutes, he's going to be someone that's really good for your side. Tino looked really good. He got a bit of an easy try early on. There wasn't a lot of resistance on him, and just looked solid. I think they're going to use him as a little bit more of a front row forward when you've got someone like Tyrone Peachey on there, who came on and looked busy. The only thing to worry about is how many minutes is someone like Peachey going to get in this team. It looks like he'll start on the bench and come on and play close to that 50 minutes is the thoughts, but he's someone that could get a 60 or 70, or he can get a 27 like he did on the weekend. So something to think about. Jamin Jolliffe should get some good minutes in this pack. He looks strong. Aaron Clark and Tanner Boyd came on and played some minutes at number 9, but other than that, not too much to talk about further with the Titans. I think there's a chance that they have a bunch of guys that do really well in this side, and then in fantasy-wise, and then there's a chance that they underwhelm a little bit just because of the fact that there's so many good options, and they all need to get their touches and do well. So there's not that 1 to 2 players that's going to take the bulk of the work and get those massive fantasy scores, but I think guys on certain days could go big and then have a quiet one. I could see Fogarty and David Fafita having a big one week as they go right a little bit more, and then Brian Kelly and maybe Peachey, who roams a bit on the left side, doing a lot better in a certain game. So that's my thoughts on the Titans. Let's have a go with the Warriors here. Roger looked great. If you're interested in having him in your side, I think that's a really good option. He looks sharp. There's definitely some upside this year with some more attacking stats, as he didn't get that last year. Sometimes it just happens. You can see with Luke Brooks last year didn't play as well. Roger still played well, just didn't have the attacking options. Ewan Aiken's a great option as a keeper centre. Not sure if I'd have him early on, just because I prefer to spend a little bit less in the centres, especially when you have guys like Brian Kelly who's on the way up in a good team. But Ewan Aiken's going to be a really good option. Runs over 100 metres, makes 3 to 4 tackle breaks, close to 20 tackles, does his job. Who else we need to talk about? Cody Nikarima did well. He's kicking goals as well, so he'll score fairly well. I think we spoke about him being maybe slightly undervalued across the season, but with Chanel coming back for round 1, I don't see too much upside. Fanua Blake did okay. I don't see him as an option. Wade Egan got injured. There's a good chance that he's going to be out for a few weeks, possibly with a Cook's thumb, I believe. So we didn't get to see too much of Egan, which was frustrating. Tanua Brown played and started over someone like Armour. Murdoch Masilla in his first run made a line break, did really well. His minutes is going to be the issue. He's already priced in the 30s there, and will he be able to exceed that? I'm not sure, but he did look good. I'm happy with how he looked to the eye. Bailey Cyranon, played well. It looks like there's a chance that between him and Jazz Tavanga, they might have to place a 9 between them. Who else we got? Toe Harris looked okay. He had a couple of errors early on, but he's someone I think who's going to play big minutes in his side, which is great if you're interested. Josh Curran played really well. Got to try. The issue is going to be when Katoa comes back, is he going to get the minutes? But I feel like if he gets a starting spot at some stage of the year, he's going to make people a lot of money because he works hard, runs a good line in attack, and can score you some tries and do well for your side. Tavanga is going to be an interesting option if he gets the 9 position for the first bunch of weeks. But he is priced at a very weird price to make some money there and score well. Leeson Armour played some limited minutes off the bench, and if he gets a bench role, I think I might have to leave him out of my side. He didn't look anything crazy to the eye. I think I might have to leave him when we talk about someone like Matt Lodge, who looked a lot better. All right. Will Kennedy actually looked fairly solid for the Sharks. Helped with a bunch of try assists out to the left-hand side to Ronaldo, who looked strong and picked up 72 fantasy points. So Ronaldo is getting better and better each year. He's someone that I've had a look at, but I think he's going to be score a game of 20 and then a game of 60. That kind of up and down with a couple of games of 20 before he gets another double. So someone that was interesting. Rayman looks strong again, but he's just at a weird price for me to make you money and turn into a keeper. Few people have spoken about him, but yeah. Matty Moylan at 17 fantasy points, he did what I think we needed him to do. He looks slick, but he always does, right? He's just someone that I think he's good at the second last pass, so the pass that doesn't get the try assist, right? So the lead-up work, I think he's really good at and helped Will Kennedy get the try assist out to Ronaldo, for example. So I think he's going to be someone that's going to be doing that. He didn't kick at all in general play, so all that kicking went to Townsend. So Moylan, I'm still not sure is an option. I think he's gonna average somewhere in the 20s and not making much money. Townsend did every kick. He also kicked some goals, which is going to be great for your side. If you put those two in by themselves, that's an extra 10 to 15 points just in kick meters that he wouldn't get usually. And with Johnson coming back, after 7 to 10 rounds, we're not sure at this stage. I think Townsend is going to make up 10 points of value in someone's side and do really well, averaging somewhere in the 40s, which will give him that upside. So he's someone that I'm tempted to bring into my side at the moment, possibly on the bench, but we'll see what's going to happen with my starting side. Hamline Newelly, I've seen a few people having their team, but he scored too many tries last year for me to see him as slightly undervalued. Blake Brayley, a few people have been talking about him as possibly a keeper option, but I see him averaging somewhere in the 40s again, and his brother is much more undervalued than what he is. Woods, Nakora is going to do his thing as normal. Magoulias shouldn't be playing come round one, but he's someone that does go really well when he does. Connor Tracy, there's talks of him moving into the 1 position, but I'd say Will Kennedy has that over Tracy at this stage. Jack Williams, we don't want to talk about him after last year. Fafita came on and looked strong again for 33. The minutes is going to be his issue. And then that's going to be all for these guys. And we'll move to the dogs. A nice long review today, guys. If you're enjoying the content, and really appreciate if you hit that like button. And if you're new to this channel, please hit subscribe. I would really appreciate it as well. All right, dogs. Corey Allen looks solid without scoring too much. Will Hopewade, 41 without doing too much. Just made his 20 tackles. Got a try assist. Just over 100 metres. Just a very solid option for your centre or wing fullback. To get 41 without doing too much is great. Kotrick got 48 and looked really strong in the centres, which is going to be his spot for the rest of the year. There's a chance that he had a little bit of an injury coming out of that. So think of that as you will and find out more as we go along through the week. Kyle Flanagan did what he needed to do. Has to average 54 for your team, so I wouldn't be thinking about him too much. Again, there's a few people thinking about him as he's going to do the majority of the work when someone like Averillo comes in. All right, Sione Katoa did okay. Hetherington, 34 points. Didn't really do too much. If I'm honest, to the eye, he got dominated a little bit by the Sharks pack. Someone like Elliott was really strong on the edge and got a try there. So, again, you can expect, like Raymond Fatala-Mariner, a few games like that, and then a few games where he might average closer to 40. But they do have him coming back into the side who didn't play, and Corey Waddell was on the other edge. We're not sure what's going to happen with Jackson. It looks like he might be moving into the middle, especially with Luke Thompson out for the first period. But Waddell did his job, and if he gets a big minute role on the edge, then I think he is slightly undervalued at this point in time. Jackson in the middle, it doesn't have any upside. And then you got the other guys. Simpson came on, didn't do too much. That's about all with this one. We'll move to the Dragons and the Rabbitohs. All right, Matty Duffy, he looks strong again, but is he going to be a season-long keeper? I'm not too sure about him. Ramsey looked solid, got a nice try. Bird did what he needed to do for 50 minutes for a 23, had a nice try assist, little hit and pass. And his runs looked a lot better than the week before. So he's someone that I think is still an option for teams, but at 370, you'd want to make sure that he's going to be playing that 80 minutes in the centres to give him that upside, which, being priced at in the high 20s, you'd want to be scoring in the mid-30s to 40. So not sure if he's going to be able to do that. Lomax looked great, didn't have to do too much, kick some goals, score a 27, but he will be a top-line keeper in the centres. Pereira Norman, not much to talk about. Benny Hunt looks solid like he normally does in the halves and should get an average in the 50s. Farmasuli only played 21 minutes for 18, but he looked fine. McCulloch, 53 points in 61 minutes. Was really, really good. That's exactly what you'd be looking for with him. If there's no other hooker on the bench and he gets 80 minutes, I think he's a great option for your side. Moving along, Vaughan scored a try, nice strong try. Tarek Sims, Josh Kerr didn't look that great. Laurie looked okay. Alvaro played scored 38 in 41 minutes, which was great, but is he going to get the spot on the bench? If he does, then he can play 35 to 40 minutes. He's got some value for sure. But you've got someone like Farmasuli on there, which might take a little bit of that. Max Fagai played a little bit, looked okay, looked decent in the other game as well, but it looks like Bird will have that spot locked down. All right, Dylan Edwards looked solid, didn't have to do too much. Staines did okay, but when you got Brian To'o doing a lot more of the heavy lifting out of the red zone, and Staines is doing a little bit less of that, then you can see where the value lies and why To'o is close to a keeper in the wing fullbacks, just because of the work that he does. Staines doesn't look like that type of player, although he looks strong when he ran the ball. Crichton, again, I think is going to need a lot of attacking stats to become a keeper. It just doesn't have the base stats. Momorowski looks solid for 37 points. Did what he needed to do, and if he gets his spot in the centres in round 1, I think he's going to be a really decent option for a lot of sides. But price similarly to Jack Bird, it's an interesting one. They've got to get in the 35s to 40 and become almost a keeper level player to be worth it in your side. Jerome Luai looked gun. My worry for Cleary, even though he did really well again, scored a try, got 61, is the fact that Luai is getting better more and more as we go along. And will he take a few more of the kicks? Will he demand a lot more of the ball? Just given the fact that how good he's been. Cleary is that good of a player that he should be still scoring in the 60s to 70, but there is a slight worry, and I can understand why people are possibly trying to steer away from it a little bit. Like, the Panthers are going to be great, and he should get all these attacking stats, but will Luai take a bunch of it this year? It didn't affect him at the end of last year when Luai was playing great, but will it this year? That's the question. Leota did really well, got 41 points, did well there, and it's just going to be a question of, for that spot in the number 8 jersey, it's probably going to be split between him and Spencer Leniu, who scored really well off the bench also. But you're thinking maybe 45 minutes for Leota, 35 for Leniu. Will that be enough for both of them? I think they're both slightly undervalued, but will it be enough? I'm not sure. Appy played great. Kickout played well. Got a score of 40. Not someone I'd be interested in. Isaiah Yeo, solid at 55 points. Yeah, Spencer came on, did his job. 150 metres, 20-odd tackles, tackle bust. Perfect, exactly what you need. And I think he's someone that's going to be a slow burn cash cow on your side. Eisenhuth and Capewell, where are they going to be on the bench? That's what we're going to be looking at, as depending on how many minutes some of these forwards are going to get. But that's all with the side. We move to the Eels. All right. So Gutho played solid. Again, not a keeper I'd want to be bringing to my side. Opacek scored at the end. Had a solid game, and again, he's someone that's at a slightly cheaper range who could do well for your side, but he has a pedigree of not doing too great for the Cowboys. Obviously, the Eels are a lot better side, but that's something to think about. Dylan Brown did what he needed to do. Nothing crazy. Same with Moses. They'll both be 50-plus point scorers for the year. All right, moving along. Reid Marnie played well. Not someone I want to talk about. Paulo, same thing. Sean Lane. Madison did okay. Did what he needed to do in the trial. Nathan Brown scored 58, did great in his decent minutes. So if you're still interested in him, I'd suggest go for it. He's going to be a focal point in that middle for this side. As Isaiah Papali came in and did well as well. So it'd be interesting to see where he fits in this side. But that's all with the Eels at this stage. A decent game, but dominated by the Penrith Panthers, who are a much better side. Alrighty, interesting one here in this team. We've got a Starko. We've got Tessie New, really interesting players. Both had really good games. Starko looks strong, helps provide some space for guys like Tessie New out on that right. Helped him with the try assist as well. So they both played really well, and I see them as decent options for your side. Starko being that little bit more expensive is a slight risk compared to what Tessie is, being a lot cheaper. For those asking, he will get dual position, but it will be after those team lists on the first week. So he'll probably get on the Wednesday, which is annoying to create sides now, but you're just going to have to pencil him in the centres or the wing fullback if you're interested in him. But he looks strong. Look good in defence as well, I think was my most important one. It was just seeing that he wasn't missing a bunch of tackles, and he looked like he held his own, which was great. Starko with the goal kicking was really, really strong in that area. Tom Dearden did his thing. Brody Croft looked okay. Carrigan was fine at 8. Turpin was really interesting. He kicked a bunch out of dummy half. He scored a try. He tackled well. If he gets an 80-minute role, I think he should be in a lot of teams. Matty Lodge, I think he did. I'm really happy with how he moved. He ran well. He's that Aiden Tolman slight build where he's a bigger guy, a little bit slower, but runs hard, tackles hard, and I think he's going to make money this year. Jordan Ricky looks solid. Didn't look as great as he did in the All Stars, but he did what he needed to do and was solid in defence and ran well too. Pangai did what he needed to do. He obviously didn't play big minutes. Flegler picked up an injury. And the only interesting one's going to be where's Corey Pake's going to play. I wouldn't be thinking about Ben Teo. A bunch of people are thinking about bringing him in, but I wouldn't want to talk about him at this stage. Moving on to the Cowboys. Hamiso was interesting. Drinkwater did his thing. Hamiso on the centres is a little bit more interesting. He'll get a little bit more ball and should do well there. Valentine Holmes, he played on the wing and then moved to fullback, and they looked a lot stronger as a team with him at fullback, which was interesting. Clifford and Morgan played smaller minutes. Robson, it looks like there's going to be someone on the bench to cover him, which is annoying for his prospects. Mitch Dunn scored a try. I wouldn't want to talk about him. Lolo did what he needed to do. Lockie Burr came on and got 39 points, so he's an interesting one if he gets big minutes in this pack. Given the fact he's come over from Warriors, it'll be interesting to see. Corey Jensen was really big and strong off the bench, if you're thinking about him, but just depends what his role is going to be. Peter Holler looked okay. Someone I'm not sure of at this stage. It'll be interesting to see where he sits on the interchange as well. And then Isan Masters came on, looked really strong in attack when he played, but it looks like if he's coming off the bench now, will he get a starting job in this team? O'Neill and Hamiso didn't get to play the All-Stars games, which Isan did, so maybe that plays a factor as to why he didn't start, but we'll have to wait and see with that one. In our last one, guys, we haven't got fantasy stats on this one yet, but the Tigers look really strong, starting with Dane Laurie. Wasn't a lot of really good defense coming his way, but he showed that he's really quick. He's going to get some tackle breaks. He's going to make a lot of meters, and there's a chance that he's going to score some tries. So if he gets that starting spot, you have to lock him in. Tommy Tillell looked really strong in the centres. Probably not an option at this stage, though. Roberts, I'm happy with how free he moved. He does seem a bit scat, like he's hitting and trying to offload all the time, and but scored a nice little try off a kick. So at that cheaper price, he's a decent option. Nofaluma looked his great self. Luke Brooks kicked goals at the start of the game, and then Dewey kicked when Brooks went off at the end. So it'll be interesting to see if he's kicking goals as well. He's going to be a really, really good option for a lot of people's sides, given the fact that he had a couple of tries in this game and should do better than what he did last year, especially. Jake Simpson come on and looked okay. He scored a little sneaky try at the end, but it wasn't anything too spectacular. And on the Sea Eagles side, Josh Schuster was a clear standout. So if he's getting that starting 6 role, then he should be in most teams. Cade Cuss got injured and he should be out for a couple of weeks. Actually, he was the one with the cooked thumb. I'm sorry about that, getting that wrong before. But yeah, Schuster's a really good option for sides if he comes in. He looks like he's beyond his years in terms of his knowledge and smarts and did really well on the field. So he's an interesting option. He set up a try for Trbojevic as well. But other than that, the Eagles, there wasn't a lot really interesting to talk about with them. Tapau looks fine. And they didn't play DCE and all that sort of stuff, so that's partly why they got smashed. But there you go, guys. That's the wrap from the trials. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comments section. And as I said, I hope you're enjoying, and please leave a like again and hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. I've seen they've got about 35% of my watchers are subscribed, so that would really be beneficial to me. And I'll see you in the next one, guys. Good luck this week.